If you're learning to code, I bet you felt it. That dizzying sense of confusion. Where do you even start? Well, today we're going to cut right through all that noise and lay out a clear path from feeling totally overwhelmed to actually confidently building real software. Let's get into it. And let's just start with this. Because if you're obsessing over which programming language to learn first, or what tech stack is the best one, I get it. This is that feeling that gets so many aspiring developers stuck before they even really begin. But here's the thing. The problem isn't what you think it is. You go online and you're just hit with this avalanche of choices. Front-end, back-end, DevOps, AI, full stack. I mean, the list goes on and on. And yeah, sites like roadmap.sh, which are amazing resources, they show you dozens of these paths. But it's so easy to just get lost staring at the map. But check this out. Here's a number from the 2025 Stack Overflow survey that should make you feel a little better. Over half of all professional developers are self-taught in some way. So the path you're on, it's not just possible, it's pretty much the norm. You're in really good company. So how do you chart that course? Well, you start with a guide. That's what resources like roadmap.sh are for. They're community-driven efforts made specifically to bring some structure to all this chaos, to help you pick a path and actually guide your learning. Let's use a really common goal as our example, becoming a full-stack developer. This is basically someone who works on both sides of an application, the front-end part that users see and interact with, and the back-end part that makes everything work behind the scenes. They're kind of the jack of all trades of web development, and it's a perfect comprehensive goal for our little journey here. And this right here, this is the most important point of this whole thing. A roadmap can show you all the technologies you need to learn. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, SQL. But that's not the same as knowing how to use them. Knowing all the stops on a map isn't the same as actually making the journey. This is where we need to make a really fundamental shift in how we think about this. We need to move from just passively looking at the map to actively taking the journey. And the vehicle that's going to get us there? It's project-based learning. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Stop trying to learn every single skill in a vacuum, hoping that someday you'll finally be ready to build something. You have to flip the script. The project isn't the final exam, it's the classroom. It becomes the curriculum that forces you to learn exactly what you need right when you need it. Just look at the difference. Over on the left, you've got tutorial hell. We've all been there. You're just passively following instructions, building really shallow knowledge. And when you're done, could you build it again on your own? Probably not. But on the right, with project-based learning, you're actively solving real problems. You're developing the deep, transferable skills that employers are actually looking for. Okay, so let's make this real. Instead of a scattered checklist of technologies, your entire curriculum is going to be one single project that evolves over time, built in stages. And each stage is going to teach you a whole new layer of the full stack. Stage 1. Your only job is to prove that you can put something on the internet. That's it. Build a simple website with a few pages using HTML for the structure and CSS to make it look nice. Make sure it's responsive so it doesn't look terrible on a phone. This is where you'll learn the basics of Git for version control. Seriously, the topic doesn't matter. What matters is getting it live. Now, in stage 2, we bring that static page to life with JavaScript. Let's say you build a little feature where a user can add a post. You'll learn how to handle button clicks and save that data right there in the browser using something called local storage. No, it's not a real database, but it is the perfect way to learn how to manage user input and change what's on the page without a complicated backend. All right, stage 3, this is where the really deep learning kicks in. You're going to take the exact same project you just built and rebuild it from scratch, but this time using a modern framework like React and Next.js. See, you already understand the logic of what you're building. Now you're just focused on learning how modern apps are structured with components, how they manage data with state, and how they handle different pages with routing. It is so much more effective than starting a branding project. For stage 4, your project officially becomes real software. You're going to rip out that temporary local storage and replace it with a real SQL database. You'll add user authentication so people can actually sign up and log in. All of a sudden, you're not just messing around in a browser. You're designing databases, building API logic, and thinking about security. You've just built a full stack application. And finally, stage 5 is all about scale. You'll take your back end and deploy it to a cloud provider like AWS. You'll figure out how to use cloud services for things like storing images and how to manage security permissions. Yeah, it might feel like overkill for a small project, but that's the whole point. You're getting hands-on experience with the exact same kind of infrastructure that powers the modern internet. So you've built a full-stack application. What's next? Well, in today's world, there's kind of one more layer to add: AI. Integrating it is quickly becoming a baseline skill for every single developer out there. But let me be crystal clear about this. You have to resist the urge to use AI tools to write your code in those first few stages. If you let it auto-complete everything before you understand what it's doing, you're not learning to code, you're learning to be a good prompter. You have to understand the why behind the code first. Once you have that solid foundation, though, adding an AI feature is actually pretty straightforward. We're not talking about building some complex model from the ground up. You're just making a call to an API from a service like OpenAI or Gemini. You could add a feature to your app that generates image captions, or summarizes a block of text, or even flags toxic comments. It's a really practical way to learn how to work with these new tools. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's this: use roadmaps as your guide. Let them show you the landscape and point you in the right direction. But please, don't get stuck just looking at the map. The real learning, the real skill development, that only happens when you start building. That's the journey. This whole process, this whole mindset, it keeps you from getting stuck in tutorial hell or endlessly debating which technology is best. You just build one thing, you evolve it, and you ship it over and over again. So the only question left is the one on your screen. Your journey starts right now with one single project. What are you going to build?